Welcome. I'm Stephanie Lowe, Health, Wealth, and Real Estate, and I'm here with Coralyn from Mental Health Matters. Yes, and today we wanted to discuss grieving and grief with you. We are here in Mexico. We came for a great experience. We came here because we have experienced a lot of loss in our family. And we came here for an opportunity to really just let go and recharge and allow ourselves to find some rebalance, right? Yeah. And so through our grieving, through our loss, which we may talk a little bit about, we thought it would be really important to bring this discussion to you guys. Now, when we talk about grieving and we talk about loss, our first thought really is dealing with a loss of relationship, a loss of, a death, a passing away. But I also just wanted to draw attention to the fact that we may be grieving or experiencing loss also with a loss of sometimes a part of ourselves. Like if you've been going through a change in your life, a transitional period, and maybe you've lost a sense of your identity or your carefreeness or your vibrancy or something, through life's transition, and you may be grieving that loss as well, right? Desiring for the past or loss of the past. And so we wanted to bring some strategies. We wanted to have a discussion around it, and then also just provide some strategies and ideas towards how to cope and how to understand some of the emotions that that you may be feeling, that we're feeling in this moment. And I also kind of prefaced, Coralyn, it may happen, I may cry, I don't know if there's tears, please just bear with me. It could happen. And then we're also going to end with a meditation as well. And we also thought this was just a beautiful scenery. We have a wonderful pond behind us with fish. You can hear the birds. We are in the jungle in Mexico. And so we just really wanted you to also have the opportunity to connect with nature and the experience that we're having here today. Mm-hmm. So, Coralyn, what did you want to, kind of bring up or discuss about, the topic of grieving and loss?
Yeah, so as Stephanie said, you and I have experienced a lot of grief, a lot of loss this year in particular, and loss of people who are really special and important to us in kind of unique ways. And, I will say that so our grandfather, we started the year off with our grandfather passing, first week of January. And it was I found it very difficult to grieve him. We knew he was going to be passing. We knew that he was ready to go. And so there was kind of joy and relief that he was finally getting the rest that he had craved for so many years. So we weren't sad in that way, but I found it very difficult to grieve afterwards. And what I ended up doing after several months of not being able to grieve was I reached out to a peer grief counselor. And if you're not familiar with counseling is really focused on sort of a short-term, how do we meet a specific need that you're struggling with. It's not getting into your whole entire life. It's really just like you go and you deal with that one thing that you're struggling with for a short period of time. And so I went and saw a peer grief counselor for a little bit. And one of the things that she taught me was that we experience secondary loss. And she explained that secondary loss is, it's one thing to lose the person or to lose the job or to lose your sense of home, but then there's all this other loss that comes along as a result of that loss. So for example, we lost Grandpa, and that was one loss, but then we also lost, or I found that I'd also lost my go-to person to talk politics with, my go-to person to share stories about like my international adventures with. I lost going home, and he would always be my last stop on my way back to my family, and there were all these other losses that I was not prepared for at all, that I hadn't even thought about, and it really and that was what was difficult and painful to deal with. So what I've learned from that is we may find that yes, we grieve the loss of the original loss, but then sometimes there are these secondary losses that come up later. Even for like a pet, I think about when my dog died, and not feeding her in the morning. Mm-hmm. I was so used to that routine. Well, now I don't have that routine, right? So we experience secondary loss in a lot of ways and a lot of times we're not expecting that.
Yeah. And I think another really important piece is sometimes people feel like there comes a point where your grieving should be over, right? You should
Yeah.
be over the loss. You should like let it go. Um, but I think that we need to understand that as individuals, we all grieve and deal with loss in different ways. There's different stages that we may flow through. There may be, a different time period that we kind of go through different stages. And um, and I think we need to make sure that we have a lot of self-compassion towards ourselves. Like if you're in a discussion and all of a sudden you start crying at that memory, sometimes people want to put themselves down for that. But you're really just connecting. That's an authentic emotion and experience that you're having. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay, right? Just love yourself through it. Find the people to connect with that can support you through it if that's what you need. And you also mentioned a great point when we were discussing earlier that it's great to let people know what it is you need. If you just need some time to yourself in that moment, then you take what you need.
Yeah,
It's good to
it's really good to let people know how they can support you, and being very clear about those, because a lot of times people will say, oh, if you need anything, you can reach out to me, but they really don't know what they're going to be asked to do. So I think it's helpful to think in advance about things that you find comforting when you're going through a difficult time. Is it helpful when somebody cooks you some meals? Maybe you had a baby, and so then you found it helpful for other people to come in and cook for a while to give you a minute to regain your normalcy, right? Or maybe it's somebody helping you to make difficult phone calls to other members of the family if it's the loss of a family member. But really thinking about those tasks that you can delegate to other people, because the reality is you're going to be feeling what you're feeling pretty intensely, pretty strongly, and it may make some of those tasks even more difficult to do while you're trying to grieve. So letting other people know, okay, here are some specific tasks. They're not emotional. Anybody could do them. Can I pass this off to you to handle, because I've got to process this. I've got to process this loss and feel what I'm feeling too.
Yeah. And excellent strategies. I know we wanted to get into outlining some coping mechanisms or some strategies for you. But what are some signs and symptoms that you might be feeling? So, again, we're all individuals and we all kind of go through and experience these emotions in different ways. So some of us may be experiencing like loss of sleep, panic attacks, tension, anxiety. I would say I was getting to a point where I was feeling a lot of irritability because we've had so much loss this year, like just in our family, and then everybody knows somebody in some way. And like I said, grief could also be loss of those social interactions that you were used to having, or loss of a certain, you just said, routine or a lifestyle. And it's just, how do we manage with these things? So depression, anxiety, physical symptoms, loss of sleep, irritability, as I said. And again, for me, a big part of me going through my grief and coming here was trying to allow myself the space to grieve, to have space to cry without feeling the demands and responsibilities, because I'm someone who carries a lot of those in my day-to-day life. And I love that. I love being someone that people can turn to for support. I love being a solution to people. But at this time, I just felt like my cup was very, very empty. And I just needed time to cry. a lot of crying. And I even felt I had to isolate myself from some family as well, to kind of create my own space. So do you want to share any tips or any signs or symptoms
absolutely.
that people should be aware of?
Well, and another big sign or symptom is guilt. Some people feel, I've heard it called survivor's guilt. If you've experienced the loss, maybe you guys are both in the same accident, you survived and someone else passed, you may be feeling some guilt. Or maybe you're the couple that's been together for 70 years and your spouse passes before you and you're still here. And so just sort of being aware that grief can be very complex. It may not always look like sadness, but it can look like many other things. I will say that one of the ways that I have found to cope with loss is sort of just recognizing that we are all going to experience loss at some point. It's not something that we can avoid. So if we know that, then how can we build up protective factors to help us navigate those losses when they happen? And when we say protective factors, what are those things that you can hold on to that will help you to cope, that will help you to feel your emotions in a way that is safe and healthy, as opposed to being detrimental for you later on down the road. So some examples of protective factors we might practice before a loss. Celebrating the holidays with people that you love. You know, don't blow it off. If your family tradition was, well, every year we go and look at all the Christmas lights together, keep that tradition going, because that's what you're going to be reflecting on when you experience the loss. Taking lots of pictures. We all have cameras and selfies and phones now, so taking lots of pictures, taking time to journal about the good days and the positive experiences that you've had. If you've had a great day at work, making sure you jot down what made that day so wonderful and so meaningful. That way, when the loss comes, you have all of these wonderful memories to be able to go back and reflect on, and to share with others as well. That can be one really good protective factor for you. And then another protective factor, being mindful that children grieve very differently. When a child has experienced loss, they are going to experience grief differently than how adults experience loss. So just being really mindful that it's okay to reach out for additional professional help if you're struggling. So, like I said, I saw a peer grief counselor. It may be going to peer family counseling with your kids. It may be making sure that a child has a picture of their loved one they can pull out and look at any time that they want to. Recognizing that they might have flashbacks throughout their life, or those monumental moments, those milestone moments, graduation, sweet 16, some of those things where they were expecting that loved one to be there and now that loved one isn't there. Really thinking about ways you can maybe incorporate maybe a little bit of a memorial service into that activity to recognize and celebrate that person, as opposed to assuming that the kids aren't struggling with that because they don't on the outside look like they're grieving the way that we would grieve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you so much. That's such empowering information. Thank you. Well, I wanted to end with a meditation. Did you want to meditate with us?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, awesome. So, this is going to be, again, just something you can practice to help you connect. So another strategy that I would suggest as well in dealing with the grief is just creating space and opportunities to connect. And as you mentioned, having, the pictures, perhaps lighting candles. Again, if it's connecting with some part of you, if it's going on a trip, if it's playing music, if it's, something just to really connect and get into that energy and that space. I really do believe that though the physical may be lost in a sense, that energy, that memory, that love that you felt, you can still carry it with you always. So, this meditation we'll do now is something where you can, set it up and engage in after you, like I said, looked at the candle, light the candle, looked at the pictures, played the music, to get into that space and energy if it's helpful to you, or just create, in your sacred or special place. So we will begin, and I'll just invite you to get into a comfortable position. If it's sitting or lying down, I will kind of walk you guys through it, and I just wanted to thank you for being here with us, and thank you so much, Coralyn, for sharing all that information. It's very helpful. All right, so I'll invite you all to close your eyes, just sitting tall, and just tapping into our breath. So we're going to use our breath as an anchor through this meditation to bring us into the moment. And you can place your hands kind of resting at your side if you'd like to place your hand on your belly or towards your heart. And we'll just take a few deep breaths in very slowly. You can think of breathing into a count of 4. And then very slowly exhaling, breathing out to a count of 4. And just observe and connect with the movement and flow of your breath. In this moment, you can take some time to just set an intention. If it's sending love, again, just connecting with that memory, sending love, sending peace. And as we're focusing on our breath, then just observe any physical emotions or sensations that you may feel as you're setting that intention, as you're focusing on that special relationship, that special person. And Again, just continuing with the deep breathing. Whatever emotions that you observe, we're observing again without any judgment, but with just compassion and love and light. Perhaps some of the things coming up is some heaviness. It could be shakiness, it could be numbness, it could be tears that are coming up. Just acknowledge how that grief and how that loss is showing up in this moment. And if you'd like, I'll just invite you, you can place your hands, if it is a particular place that is showing up in your body, you can place your hands there, and again, just focus on sending love and light inward towards yourself, sending healing light inward towards yourself, self-compassion, love, understanding. I'm feeling sadness, and that's okay. I'm feeling love, I'm feeling gratefulness. Okay. I'm feeling joy in the memory, and that's okay. And just continue to take a few more breaths, slowly breathing in, slowly breathing out. Again, observing, being present. Have moved your hands, I'll invite you to just rest your hands back down at your side. It's about using your breath to soften, to relax the muscles of your face, your eyebrows, your cheeks, your jaw. Allow your shoulders to relax. And use that breath to just exhale and release anything that you need to in this moment. Whatever you're guided to just exhale and release. Take 3 more deep breaths together, slowly breathing into a count of 4. And fully and deeply exhaling to a count of 4. 2 more deep cleansing breaths in this way, slowly breathing in, drawing in as much breath as you can, as much, again, love and light. And again, fully exhaling, letting go of whatever you feel you need to in this moment. And we'll take 1 deep final breath together, fully and deeply inhaling. And fully and deeply exhaling. And now I will just invite you to very slowly open your eyes. You can wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, and just bring yourself back into this moment. And, if you have experienced loss recently, this is definitely a daily practice that you can use to just reconnect in an authentic way with what you're experiencing. We hope that some of the discussion and strategies that we shared with you are things you can tap into daily whenever it is that you need. And definitely encourage you to reach out and get help if that's something you really need to. If you're finding that the emotions are becoming a lot to deal with or are affecting your daily routine or activities in a serious way. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
You just say, kind of as a final thought, if you do find that you begin to feel or experience thoughts of hopelessness or helplessness, please know that those are really big warning signs that you're probably not being able to grieve in the healthiest of ways. And so if you do see those warning signs, it's appropriate to contact the crisis line. It's appropriate to contact professional help. And to be reminded that you're not alone and to have someone really help guide you and get you back on track. It's really, really important, and there's no shame in it.
Thank you so much again, Coralyn from Mental Health Matters. And I'm Stephanie Lowe, Health, Wealth, and Real Estate. Thank So, namaste.